Hello guys, PJ here. Today I'm working on a 2016 Nissan Note and we're going to be fitting an X-based dashboard camera into the vehicle, wired to the fuse box so it goes on and off with the car's ignition system. Very simple thing to do, should take you no longer than an hour. So before we start the video, I just need to quickly say that by watching this video guide I am held in no way responsible or liable for any injuries to yourself or damage to your vehicle. And on with what we're going to need to do the job. The items you see before you are sort of useful tools, useful things to have to do the job, so you're sort of ready prepared. The most important tool out of all of them is a plastic leverage tool. Something similar to this or a straight version is fine. You buy these on eBay, Amazon, they're normally about sort of £2 a pack. You do not want to be using a steel screwdriver for levering plastic trim on your car because you will 100% dint it, damage it and make a right mess of it. So invest if you haven't got any. If you've got something else plastic that's a leverage tool lying around, fine, use that. Right, 2 or 3 cable ties, some electrical tape, wire snips, long nose pliers. Now you don't technically need the long nose pliers, you can use the little plastic gizmo that comes with the car to pull the fuses out of the fuse box. Some cars have recessed fuse boxes that are hard to get to, so I always keep a pair of long nose pliers just to grab the fuse and pull it out. You don't technically need those. And a multimeter, or if not a multimeter, one of the little screwdrivers, the little ones that have a light bulb in the end of them, so when you touch something, if it lights up, you know it's live. Okay, ideal thing to do. We're going to be wiring the camera to an accessory position circuit. So nothing to do with airbags, ECU, braking, that type of thing. Must be an accessory circuit and I'll show you how we test for that shortly. Moving on to the camera itself. I would ideally recommend you buy something like this, a fitting kit. Now they're available for most brands of camera and you can get universal ones as well. In one of these fitting kits you will get the following items. A replacement power cable. Make sure it's got the right connector on the end. The X-based cameras use a mini USB, which is what this is, but be aware there's also micro USB, which is a lot thinner, and some of them, like the Blackview cameras, use a little round power connector. Same with Kenwood, Garmin, etc. Just make sure you've got the right cable end, very important. The other end of this cable, you have a nice simple power wire, which will go to your fuse box, and an earth cable which you will put to a chassis earth, such as a dashboard mounting bolt. I will show you that shortly. Also in these kits you get a ferrite filter. Now if you have DAB radio in your car, this will help stop interference. Now I do stress only DAB, FM and AM will be fine, they will be unaffected. This is for DAB only. And it is not a guaranteed cure. A lot of cars, such as Mercedes, etc., when you fit a dashboard camera, if the camera is not a heavily shielded one, you will lose your DAB reception. Some cars it affects, some it doesn't, even with these fitted. So if you've got DAB in your Nissan Note, be aware, whichever camera you buy could be a potential problem. You need to ask your retailer or online supplier, is the camera heavily shielded to prevent DAB interference, okay? This is only a sort of helping measure, it's not a cure. Next up, in this kit, it comes with fuse spurs, as they are called. Now you get different size fuse spurs depending on what vehicle. These bigger ones are now used mainly in commercial vehicles and older vehicles, so we won't be using that one on the Nissan. This is a mini blade fuse spur, and this is the right size for the Nissan Note. You also get micro blade and you get some triple blade ones as well now. Nissan Note mini blade. All it does is when you pull a fuse out of the fuse box, you put the fuse you've pulled out of the fuse box in the spare socket and this into the socket where the fuse came from. This fuse that's already in it will run your camera. This is 2 to 3 amps, and then obviously whatever fuse you take out sits next to it. I'll show you that shortly when we go to the fuse box to install it. First things first, we've got to prepare your power cable. Now you'll be mounting your camera just to the left hand side of the rear view mirror if you're on a right hand drive car. I'm working on a right hand drive UK model. Now bear in mind fuse box specifications do vary from country to country, region to region, and also vehicle specification. Okay, so make sure you test your fuses, refer to your handbook, etc. when you get to that point. So cable first, all we're going to do is unwrap it, measure it across the top of the window screen so we've got the right length, and I'll show you how to fit your ferrite filter. So your ferrite filter's on little clips, look, and basically it's on a hinge at the back, so you just pop them open, they open up, and then you put your cable through it, round the back of it, and then back through it again so it loops round. You need to leave sort of about an inch from the end of the cable so it can flex around enough to actually plug into your camera. There's the ferrite filter fitted, so like I say, open it up, round it, and then back out. Next up, you're going to need your cable ties. Wrap your cable ties around it periodically, like so, snip the end off. And then what I do is cover them in tape. Now this serves two purposes. One, it bulks the cable up so that when it's sitting in your headlining just above your window screen, if you hit a pothole or jar the car, it's not going to drop down in front of the window screen view. So it's going to bulk the cable up just enough to make it sit tight and not move. The reason I cover them in tape is because if you've ever snipped a cable tie, you'll know the end of it can be quite sharp. Well, your headlining is made of sort of a fibre substance, and in theory, I suppose over years it could wear it from the inside and make a mess of it. This is just to pad it out a little bit. It's not something you've got to do, but it's just a precaution. Okay. Next up, we're going to put this cable up to the window screen. Now when putting your cable up under the fibre here, under the headlining, just be careful. Do not go at it like a bull in a china shop. It's quite fragile. So you can normally just put your fingers and just pull it down enough to get the cable in and route it all the way along, like I say, to your sort of rear view mirror. Probably going to need both hands to do this. There we go. Up we go. No, managed it one-handed. No, I haven't. So there you go. So you've got a little bit sticking down to the camera, yeah? Go all the way along the edge until you get to the plastic trim here. When you get to the plastic trim, grab your rubber door seal and pull it away, yeah? So just open the door really quickly, grab your trim, pull it away, and then you can flex that out like so and go behind to where the airbag is. We're going to feed the cable behind the airbag, so it runs behind it and then all the way down to the bottom. When you've got your cable safely tucked down the inside edge, running parallel to the airbag, just sort of tap your rubber seal back on and give the trim a good whack. You're looking for a factory fitted finish, you don't want to see any cables in the corners, nice and tidy. And then you're coming down to your fuse box area here, which pops off, like so. This screw here is an ideal earthing point. We're going to undo that and put our earthing strap underneath it for an earthing point. Wires basically have come down here, up, under, and then back out through the dash for tidiness. So, now to test your fuses. Now I'm sorry about the background noise that you can hear, but unfortunately I don't get to choose the location of these videos. So anyway, with our multimeter set, like so, 0, you're looking for a switched fuse. So with the ignition on, if we test, I mean I've done these before, so I sort of know on the right hand drive cars that these lower 3 that we're testing here are ignition switched. So if we touch the end of the fuse, like so, the little shiny bit, with the ignition on, there's voltage. So if we turn the ignition off, ignition now off, touch the same point again, 0. Accessory position, ignition switched fuse. That is an ideal one for us to do. With the ignition off, we can now go ahead and remove that fuse. Like I say, check your vehicle, because year, model, specification, region it's sold, etc. There are variations. So I'm going to pull that fuse out right now and put it in our fuse spur. A quick side note, if when you remove your fuse it's the stunted type, like this, you're going to need to buy little pack of fuses with the longer prongs on them for your fuse spur. They're colour coded, so red is 10 amp, yellow is 20, etc. And we're going to pop that in there, like so. So you've got one fuse to run the original circuit and one to run the camera. And there we have both fuses in. Pop back in the fuse socket there. Cable leading off behind the dashboard, earth cable leading off as well. They both come out down here, which is an ideal location because behind this plastic panel is a big gap. So we can now gather up all the excess, cable tie it or electrical tape it into a nice neat wrap and tuck it behind here out of the way. A quick note regarding camera mounts. Now a lot of cameras come with 2 different types of mount. Normal sucker type for glass and 3M adhesive. Now you might think, well, I'll just use the sucker. However, if your windscreen has the black bobbly textured surface, now it's got to be bobbly as in you can feel the bobbles like a painted surface, you're going to need the 3M sticky mount to be able to put it next to your mirror here, because the sucker mount will only stick to the smooth glass. If you put it here, it's going to keep falling off every 2 minutes using the sucker, so 3M mount. Now make sure you test it, because some cars, this is perfectly smooth. This black area will be just like glass, in which case you can use the sucker. But if you can feel the texture to it, you need the sticky mount. There's our camera nicely mounted to the window screen, nice and high up, tucked out the way. Obviously, if your camera doesn't come with both types of mounts, then yeah, you're going to have to move it all the way across over here. It's not ideal, but if you've only got one mount, it's the only thing you can do. As long as it's out of your wiper sweep area, you're fine. On a UK vehicle, if you've got anything in the wiper sweep area, it is actually classed as illegal. It will fail an MOT and the police could pull you over for it or warn you about it and give you an inspection notice. It's daft, but it's the same thing as having an air freshener dangling from your mirror. If you've got one of them dangling from your mirror, yeah, it'll fail an MOT and yes, it's illegal. So we're putting this high up as high as we can get. Next up, we're going to test it. So popping the ignition on. And there we go, camera on. Little spiky symbol there in the battery showing you it's charging. Turn it off again, spiky symbol goes, camera shuts down. And that, guys, is how you wire your camera into a Nissan Note. Any questions, pop them in the comments below. I do my best to answer them quickly, but I do get inundated with questions on all sorts of vehicles, all sorts of problems every single day. So bear with me. Thanks a lot for your time. Bye for now.